Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. There are thousands of veterans attending America's colleges and universities preparing for new lives after their service. We're coming up on Student Veterans Week. 5 area universities, UMSL, Fontbonne, Lindenwood, SLU, Webster, and WashU, are collaborating on the event. Joining me in studio are retired Army Colonel Jim Craig. He chairs the Department of Military and Veteran Studies at UMSL. Angie Peacock is an Army veteran and graduate student at Washington University working on a master's degree in social work, and she is an officer in the WashU Student Veterans Association. Emily Staden is also an Army vet, a biology and biochemistry double major, and president of the UMSL Student Veteran Association. Emily, I don't know how you have time to be with us today, but thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Jim, if I can start with you. We've all been reading and hearing about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You've been writing about post-traumatic growth. What is that?
I have. So post-traumatic growth is actually an older idea, but it just doesn't seem to get the traction that post-traumatic stress disorder gets. And it's this idea that you can become better because of your experiences, even when those experiences were difficult and stressful and maybe even traumatic. Right. And so I did. I wrote a couple months ago an article about post-traumatic growth, about what I felt like was my post-traumatic growth, as well as the student veterans that I deal with on UMSL's campus and then across the St. Louis area, and just the amazing things that they're doing. I would say not in spite of their experiences, but maybe propelled by their experiences. And the 2 students we have with us today are perfect examples of people who are really excelling, who have had service experiences that sometimes are not fantastic, but are really moving forward in the world.
Emily, what's your take on post-traumatic growth?
Well, I think that in the military you experience not always the best experience, but you can always have hardships that challenge you. And when you come out, you're challenged as well to grow. Mm-hmm. And it's what you do with that growth.
What kinds of challenging experiences did you undergo?
Well, as a female in the science field, there's a lot of male counterparts, and I'm challenged to basically grow. And I guess I'm challenged to reach above, or at least try to meet that expectation. And the Army helped me with that.
Well, we can talk more about that in a moment, but Angela, let me turn to you and get your take on all of this.
Well, I think it definitely propels me. The challenges that I faced in the Army, just to be quick, I was sexually assaulted, and then I went to combat. And then when I came home, my transition was very rough. I had an addiction to opiates, so I'm not the norm. My story is my story. Mm-hmm. It's not what a lot of women go through. But that is because of those experiences. I had to reach deep down and heal from that, and get a new community. And there's nothing that brings me more joy than to see other veterans, the light go back on in their eyes, mm-hmm. and for them to find a new community, and for them to succeed and graduate from college, and to serve their community the same way they were serving while they're in service.
Jim, back to you with regard to what you see as a supervisor and an instructor. What do you see in the students, and particularly in the female students?
So let me just do a little bit in the background in the data. The military is about 14% women, mm-hmm. but our student veterans are about 25, mm-hmm. sometimes up to 27% women. So female vets are going to college at a rate almost double their representation in service, right? And then female vets in college are succeeding at rates that are equivalent or better than their female counterparts. And we know now women are doing fantastic in college. I mean, UMSL is 59% women, and they're graduating at greater rates. The female vets are matching that. So what I see on our campus is women vets finding a home. Often it's not in the vet center, but we'd like it to be. But that's okay, right? It's okay if their home is in the biology department, because that means they're moving forward, not moving backwards. Emily's a great example. Emily stood up and said, I will lead the Student Veterans Association. After men for the last 7 years have led the Student Veterans Association, and we now have a program that's St. Louis-wide, 5 different universities. They decided to share what each of them does best and then come together. This is something that women do fantastically, and I couldn't be more proud of them. And this story's really not about me and my experiences; it's about them. So I want to defer a little more and allow them to talk.
Well, let's do that. And Emily, we'll come back to you with regard to what experience have you had coming out of the service that is different from men, do you think?
Well, as a female, you're pushed to excel. I mean, I don't know because I'm not a male, so I can't really speak to that. But I know that as a female, I'm always looked to represent and especially being president of the SVA at UMSL, or Student Veterans Association at UMSL, I know that having male predecessors before me, what I really wanted to do was show that I can definitely lead the same or better, not because I wanted to show them up, but simply because I want to lead it in a positive direction from here.
You feel like you're being compared to the male predecessors?
Yeah. I think that everybody feels that way to some degree, but definitely yes.
And Angie, how about your experiences? How do they differ, do you think, from men following your service?
Well, I think there was an article I was reading the other day, and it was talking about when women are in service, they become hyper visible to where like everything we do is scrutinized. So for me, I don't know about you, but for me it was I had to work twice as hard just to get half the respect, and often I was called names because of that I won't say, but then when we leave service, we kind of become invisible. So it's like, I have license plates on my car that say I was a veteran, but people assume like, tell your husband thank you for his service. And you're like, no, wait, I'm not married. It's my service, So then you kind of fly under the radar a little bit when you get home. So same as Emily, I've been in the Student Veterans Organization for probably 6 years at WashU, and I've always taken like a back because that's where I'm comfortable, like just kind of hide out in the background, do what I got to do. But this year I knew that like this is my last year at WashU. I want to step up and do what I should have been doing probably years ago. But to just kind of lead and be like, it's not because I'm a female, it's because I'm a good leader. And that's what, that's what I want my lasting impact to be.
How did your time in the service prepare you for this kind of leadership?
I think I'm really good at paying attention to details. And like everything is like my brain is like a super organized machine. Like this event needs these many things and this is the person that's going to do it. And like I'm an excellent project manager basically, but I learned that from service. And, I think I can be a little high strung, a little like work too much, don't know when to turn the phone off. But those things help me when I need them. But, I have a lot of skills that I gained from the Army that I would never have gotten probably if I would have stayed local.
Emily, the same question to you.
I agree with Angie completely. I think that I can be a little OCD, and the Army only magnified that for me.
You only have a double major for crying out loud. What do you mean OCD?
And I mean, with the Student Veterans Association, I mean, what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's giving the attention that it's deserving. So whenever I was elected president, I wanted to make sure that it was given 100%, and so that's what I do. And I mean, last week I think it was, we were at the I think it was Jeff City.
Yeah, Missouri Legislative Day for UM system.
And right now what we're doing is Student Veterans Association Week, and what I want to do is I want to get networking with the rest of the Student Veterans Association in the UM system, and I want to build networking with those groups because they want to network, and I think that our group deserves that. I think we should build relationships. So and I just want to get bigger and bigger, and I know that may be unfeasible right now, but it's feasible in the future. So
Jim, we've talked about this sort of thing in the past, and that is the qualities that the veterans bring back to civilian life are often underappreciated, often by employers who don't realize what diamonds and gems they have here because of their military training.
Yeah, I think that is starting to change. I mean, employment for employment for veterans. The latest set of employment numbers came out just last week, and vets are actually more employed than their civilian counterparts right now. The issue has started to become vets don't stay in their jobs for longer. You know, the average veteran will leave within a year of their first job. And so that means, we think, one, either they made a bad choice to start, or two, there's not a lot of opportunities in there for them to connect well to start. And so those employers that are creating veteran affinity groups, those employers that are creating opportunities for veterans to contribute not just on the job but some sort of service in the community, because it seems like vets tend to do this, those employers are keeping their veterans, and those vets are doing better. So, vets do bring a lot to the table. They bring more to the table than just this work ethic. They're really smart.
We have 30 seconds before we need to take a break. Very quickly, tell me, why do you think so many of the student leaders are women? The veterans groups.
So there's something about what women are doing on college campuses anyway today, right? I think there's a movement afoot in our society with women in general right now, and women veterans are no different in that movement. So they've been doing well all along, but there's something going on in our society. Women are taking charge, and women veterans are no different right now.
A lot going on right now at this precise moment that this is happening. I have to take that break. We'll do that now and come back and continue the conversation, which is centering on student veterans. Student Veterans Week is coming up in the St. Louis area very, very shortly. We'll talk about that. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU. Now back to our conversation with Jim Craig, who's the chair of the Department of Military and Veteran Studies at the University of Missouri St. Louis. Angie Peacock is an Army vet and Washington University graduate student. Emily Staden is Army vet and president of the Student Veterans Association at UMSL. Jim, let me come back to you, because as we were off the air, you received some numbers indicating how well these female students do at our colleges and universities. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so the SVA, the Student Veterans Association National, sent out some numbers, and it matches what we're seeing in St. Louis. It's 25% of student veterans are women, and 23% of all certificate and degree holders in the veteran community are women, which matches essentially those numbers pretty darn close. There are 450,000 women women veterans in college right now. It's a fantastic number, and it's only going to grow.
Right. I want to talk about, again, some of the issues that you face, ladies, as you come back and out of the service. And Angie, I'll start with you, because one of the things that I've been reading concerns the VA, the Veterans Administration, and the fact that the wheel is not balanced when it comes to female vets, correct?
They have shifted toward like a women's only clinic to kind of get us off campus to a more comfortable environment. There are females that have experienced military sexual trauma, so entering like an all-male building where it's not always pleasant. Getting that off campus actually kind of helps them seek care and makes the access a little better. Also, there is women veteran coordinators that if you need a female-specific issue, you can call them. And the best news for me personally, from my own experience, is that the VA has shifted to a whole health where it's patient-centered. And it's kind of just starting in St. Louis as a pilot program for that. But that it's like, what do you want as a patient? Like, what are your goals? How do you look at healing? Like, what kind of things do you need in your recovery to get better from what happened to you, or just even pain issues?
I've heard that in many of the facilities, they don't even have gynecological services.
Yes, that's true. I've heard horror stories, just like females with breast cancer that needed like a mammogram, but the facility didn't have that. And I mean, there is many horror stories. That is true. But I do think they are trying, and it is a bureaucracy, and it's slow moving, and unfortunately can't keep up with the number of females in service. But hopefully we can all advocate for ourselves as much as possible to get the services that we need.
Are there other examples, Emily, of these kinds of inequities?
Well, I'm not actually registered at the VA.
I mean in other areas as well.
As far as
any benefits, any services that would apply to women veterans that is different or not equal with their male counterparts.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any right now, but I can't think of any currently. But I wish that they would fix some of these issues at the VA, like such as the slogan. But and I'm sure we're going to talk about that later. But
we can talk about that now because we don't have all the time in the world. Here is the VA motto. I can read it for you. It reads, "To care for him who shall have borne the battle, and his widow and his orphan." That is the VA motto. That needs to be changed to what? Do we have any idea, Jim? Do you know what they're thinking about?
Well, so I don't know that they're thinking about it at all. I know that there has been some advocacy in Washington, D.C. through several different veterans organizations to think about it, to change it. There is some slow moving. Those are Abraham Lincoln's words. But I'm sure Abraham Lincoln wasn't considering what the world looked like today, would look like today when he said those words. And had there been women on the battlefield, there were women on that battlefield, by the way, but had there been women in great numbers on that battlefield and the numbers we're seeing today, I think his words would be different. And we could gender neutralize that.
And I mean, I think it is a slogan, and it's a slogan. Like, I'd rather see action than a slogan change, so that just females feel more comfortable at the VA, have more access, more services that are tailored to our needs. And that is the center of patient-centered care, is like, what do females need? Ask us. We're here to tell you.
Go ahead, Emily.
Well, and recently at WashU, it was during it was Veterans Day, wasn't it? The VA director was there, and he actually seemed like a really nice person, and actually seemed like a very actionable person. And he seemed like somebody that if someone were to speak up and say, the St. Louis John Cochran Hospital there's issues and they need to be taken care of, he would do stuff. He would enact change.
Is there any kind of a lobbying organization of female vets that could go to Washington or go to Jefferson City and really start making some noise?
The Service Women's Action Network, SWAN, they recently held I think it was a 4-day seminar where they pulled around 700 female veterans, asked them like what their mental health needs were, and they are lobbying. And then there's other organizations like Wounded Warrior Project that has a legislative and advocacy center, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. We do have several. I think the key is that female veterans are in college, and we're concentrating on that, and some have families. And I think we all, just from one female veteran to another, we all can take the time, even if it's to fill out a survey or to write a letter to a legislator, or to even talk to the patient advocate, to just tell them, make an appointment with the director and say, I'd really like this service for female veterans. We all have that power. It's just using it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit as time begins to wind down about what's going to be happening starting on the 17th. And Emily, I'll start with you. Student Veterans Week. What is that all about, and how did it come about?
Well, it began, at least to my knowledge, at the beginning of the year, in the fall semester, we got together as a group with Bill Wallace, the head of the
Missouri Veterans Endeavor.
Yes. And we decided that we wanted to do a Student Veterans Week, which I think they've had this before I've been around. Okay, so this is second annual Student Veterans Week. And UMSL's portion of it is taking place on Friday, March the 23rd, and we are doing a film screening. And we are featuring the film Surviving Home with Bobby Henline. He'll be there, and he's actually in the film with 4 other veterans. It's 4 other veterans or 5?
But it's a group of events. So there's 5 events. There's 5 universities. it's really over a week. It's not there's a skip day in there, and it's just trying to capitalize on what each university can do best to support, and then a student veterans organization, when they're very busy, can do one thing and one thing well, and then share. Right. And that's really, I think, matches the way the veterans are starting to deal with each other on the other campuses. And
so it's vet working.
Yeah.
Vet working. Oh, very good, very good. What other kinds of events, Jim, are taking place during that week?
Let me let Angie cover it because
Sure.
she's the one who really put it together.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry, Angie.
No problem. So on Saturday, SLU is going to host a community service event at the Salvation Army Veterans Residence, and we're going to break into groups and help the homeless veterans with resumes, LinkedIn, how to get back into school, like whatever they need. On Sunday, we're going to have a veterans writing workshop at the Missouri History Museum. That's hosted by Lindenwood, and non-student veterans and family members are also welcome. Then on Tuesday, there is a LinkedIn training and vet working at Wash U, and that's sponsored by Boeing. On Wednesday, there's a veterans mental health panel at Webster. And on Friday, like she said, is the UMSL film screening. So we feel like we got a little bit of everything for everyone, from writing to community service to jobs, a little bit.
Basically, are these events just for veterans or geared? You mentioned families can be there, but veterans' families, I assume.
Honestly, it's open to the entire community. We want to have the community. We don't want to be a silo that we're only student veterans. We want to interact with the community, want to build relationships. You know, some of us are back home and we're trying to find our place again, and that's really the primary purpose of this, is to help student veterans, but then also build those relationships that will help us succeed in the future.
Yeah. Is there a national component to this, Jim, at all? I mean, is this happening in other places
there isn't.
as well?
No. This is St. Louis specific, and I don't know of another city where there's this preponderance of higher education institutions that are networking like this. We've brought it up to SVA National and tried to show it to them and say, we think this is the model. We think this is how student veteran organizations in cities where there are several institutions work well together, and we're hoping they pick it up, and maybe they'll help sponsor it and give us a little bit of funding. That would be great.
But I did actually discuss this with the MU system at Jeff City a couple of weeks ago, last week. And they liked it. They were actually pretty impressed with the fact that we were doing this. So
this is obviously a collaborative effort. How difficult was it to get all five together? Angie, you made a face.
I definitely use my Army skills of leadership, project management. It's kind of like herding cats, like to get everybody in the same room on the same day, because we all have classes, families, jobs, practicum, you name it. But it's awesome just to watch the professional development of fellow student veterans, like to stand up and lead something at their university when they might not have done that prior.
Well, if you got the right people involved in putting all this together, I'm sure it's going to be a great success. I want to thank you all so much for being with us and telling us about what you're doing and what's going to be happening starting on the 17th. Jim Craig, thank you for being with us. Angie Peacock and Emily Staden, thank you for being with us. Good luck to you all. And this is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.